Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and your other co-host this week, straight out of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, is Nick. Welcome back, Nick.
Hey, man. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for having me over again. I like I say every time, I can't wait to see that text of, hey, you want to do it? Because yes, I do. Thanks for having me, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And if this is your very first episode of the show, the way we format it is we go through news first, and then we end it with the Brokehead Block, which is the more personal side of the podcast, what Nick and I have been doing this week or since you last heard us, what we've been playing, reading, watching, what's been making us broke. This week we do have something a little bit different in the Brokehead Block that'll be because it was a little bit of a lighter news week. We have some would you rather type of questions, but first, let's jump right into the news and explore sector number 528. So China is about to get Pokemon officially, as Pokemon's website has confirmed that the company will publish Pokemon cards in simplified Chinese for the first time later this year. Cards from the Sun and Moon series will be the first to be reprinted in simplified Chinese with a goal of catching up to the Japanese release schedule with frequent releases. So instead of once every 3 months like they typically do, they will most likely be doing once every month a new set until they're all caught up. Sun and Moon was the first game to be translated into simplified Chinese, which came just a year after the Chinese government lifted a 15-year ban on video games. So they are slowly getting into opening up more of the Pokemon product over in China, which is going to be a huge bump for the Pokemon company.
Super duper cool. Something that I was unaware of until just now. So thank you for teaching me that. So that goes for the entire thing, even though, like, was it just a 15-year ban on video games? So they haven't seen any of the anime, read a manga, or none of that's been put into Chinese before, is what you're saying? This is the first time any Pokemon has been in Chinese at all?
Chinese ban lifted a 15 year. Okay, so since Pokemon is 25 years, actually they're 30 years old now, it would have been available in China at some point during the early years, and it sounds like recently, 15 years ago, or Sun and Moon came out 5 years ago. So yeah, there might have never been Pokemon, at least never translated in simplified Chinese. I don't know if they had other languages available in China, but if they did, it would have been for a very short period of time, because that 15-year ban on video games does span from a lot of Pokemon's history.
Interesting. I don't know. I figured, like, once you got a float in the Macy's Day Parade, like, you were just worldwide. You had to have been everywhere. So I also, like, it's a little ignorant on my part to assume, because they were really close, or at least close in geography, that the two of them would share in that. But I guess not. Again,
China has the weirdest rules too, because they could easily consider Pokemon kind of like we were in the 90s, like the Christian churches and everything, of like, these are demons. They're demon creatures that they're teaching our kids. And for China, it's even further. Like, gambling is illegal over there, and there were some gambling games in Red and Blue, and which they have since removed in future versions of the games. But back then, that could have easily been an instant ban from the get-go. So you never know with China. They just have the not the oddest rules, but the very different, more hardcore than even we seem to have, or had even in the 90s. But I'm sure there were a ton of bootlegged Pokemon cards over the years. There's no way they did not have a black market of cards over there.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's somebody over there who gets to, quote unquote, officially start a collection. But meanwhile, hell yeah, they have to have anywhere that you can make a profit off that. And two, yeah, I bet it's risky. But at the end of the day, like, if you're a cop and you pull over a guy with, like, crates of Pokemon cards, are you really going to be like, all right, man, to the slammer? You're going to be like, stop. Come on. Or just even let him go. Like, he's like, all right. Out of all the things wrong, you're just cards. Go ahead.
It's just cardboard, man.
Yeah, it's paper.
Well, good on the Pokemon company, because again, that's a massive population over there. Official releases for China. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple of cards that were banned or changed artwork wise because of some of the maybe some more suggestive nature of the characters or certain Pokemon that are based off of certain mythology that's banned over there. I can see that happening, and I'm sure we'll learn about it as the cards come out and they release. But in the meantime, again, huge bump in profit for Pokemon when that really gets rolling.
It's got to be Mr. Mime. I'm sorry. When you were like, they might change some shit, that was the first one that came to mind. I was like, they're probably not going to let that creeper go. And especially how he lived with Ash's mom and stuff.
Yeah, can't have that. Someone else that the police went after is a 17-year-old in Oxfordshire. Although they have yet to officially say that this is the reason, it has been reported that this teen was arrested in connection with what we covered last week, the Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks, and also some Uber hacking that he did on his part. So a source told The Desk that the teenager is being held on numerous charges, including conspiracy to attack at least 2 different computer systems. This is something that if you hack Rockstar Games, you leak one of the biggest video game franchises of all time, Grand Theft Auto, even though we were saying that it probably will not affect their bottom line all that much when the game eventually releases, that's still billions of dollars at risk. If they had been more complete at that point and the game got out to a ton more people, they were going to find out who the hell did this.
Honestly, I'm surprised that it I'm of two sides of this. Like, A, he's got to be either very impressive to still hack stuff, or B, they got to be really lax in that shit. You know, like with this express VPNs, firewalls, the entire security teams that I'm sure Rockstar can create. Like, how the fuck did he get that? Like, you know what I mean? And B, too, how did he think he was going to get away with it? Like, of course they were going to find out who it was.
If it had been someone a little bit older, like a member of Anonymous or something, or I don't know, someone in those circles that knows how to use hacking and hiding their footsteps everywhere, they weren't going to find them. They were there. It was going to be multiplied upon different. It could be here. It could be there. It could be a million sources. But a 17-year-old, someone younger, someone more tech savvy, it doesn't shock me that they eventually and very quickly found out who it was. I think it was just a week later they already found the kid, and he sounds like he is being charged. He's in that age where 17, and some places that's tried as an adult. I don't know how the law works over there, but they are going to make an example out of him, because if they don't, the next person that does this, you know, they're trying to get people to not do this in the future.
I was just watching a video I very, very much like. It's called Caravan of Garbage. It's a series done by Mr. Sunday Movies on YouTube. And they're doing the Hulk series right now. So they already did the Lou Ferrigno, and now they're on the Eric Bana Ang Lee directed. And apparently some friend of a guy at marketing got some sort of copy of that flick in completion, in terms of the story was what it was going to be start to finish, but it wasn't all the way voice tracked. It wasn't all the way polished, right? He got like 3 years for doing that shit. And I was like, holy good God. Like, imagine sitting in a federal prison, because it ended up being a felony. Imagine sitting in a fucking prison with, like, you know, let's just go old school and a little bit, what's the word? Stereotypical of just like big dudes pumping iron, just like, oh my God, when I get out of here. And here's this guy like, I made a movie appear on the internet when I shouldn't have. Like, I don't know. But yeah, no, they're going to make an example too. So let's see if how many years he gets. And they should. That is thievery. It's a little fucked up.
Speaking of video games, GameStop, one of the last places you can still find video games in the wild, had this big Reddit thread. The employees made up this big Reddit thread and talked about how they're tired of parents using GameStop as a way to drop off kids, a daycare. They call it GameStop Daycare. And I remember I worked at GameStop for, I want to say 8 years, and that absolutely happened. But did you ever kill time at Target or at a comic shop or at a GameStop when you were younger, while your parents went and ran errands, or while they went next door to the nail shop and got their stuff done, or anything like that?
No, I wouldn't say it was not to be trusted, but it was better to have kept an eye on me as a young child. So definitely not leaving me in the store. Now, if my mom was looking at books or CDs at the time, you know, and maybe I could veer off an aisle or two. However, no, to be completely like, all right, mom's going to run around this Target, you stay and try your N64 or whatever was out. Like, no, there's not a chance that was going to happen. I tried. I tried, but I was also like that video game thing. It never really hit me. I was never able to do it for anything. Right now, I'm actually getting back into it just a small amount. I do have one of those new Nintendo systems. See, I'm sold. I think it's called the Switch, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
that's the current one. Yeah.
Thanks. I had to even look at my wife and get like a thumbs up. But we figured out how to play like NES games on it. And I'm like very much enjoying that for that side tangent. But no, like later in life, I would say high school, I was dropped off at the entire mall of like, all right, go call us when you need to be picked up. But
There you go.
no, I wouldn't say at a young age that I was just left at one certain stop. That would have been cool. I would have liked it. But again, I wasn't that kid who was like, all right, you'll stay right here, because I would have just wandered off like, oh, something's over there. Boom, I'm gone.
So yeah, so by the age you were dropped off at the mall, it wasn't anymore an issue of just killing time. You were hanging out at the mall and you had a goal in mind. You weren't just along for the ride while your parents did stuff. It was already you actually wanted to go there.
Yes, and more importantly, in this conversation of like how it's not as annoying, is I had money to spend. So if I walked into a GameStop, if I couldn't afford an entire game, something was going to get bought. But the same thing for a hot topic. I really enjoyed Pac Suns. I haven't seen one of those motherfuckers in a while. But yeah, no, exactly. At least, no, it was never like dropped off and like, all right, I'll be back in 20 minutes while I go do that. That must be, you've seen that in real life?
Yeah, a lot of kids would come in without their parents, or sometimes their parents would leave. And I had a handful of times where the parents would tell me, keep them in the store, make sure they don't leave. And I told them, I'm not responsible for that. I knew that off the bat. That was something that came with training. Like it's a thing parents do. If the kids leave the store, that's on them. We're not responsible for kids running around, leaving or anything. We can't keep them here. And if something happens to them while they're here, again, that's not my responsibility as far as, them taking down a shelf and something falling on them, because that did happen with a kid. There was one kid who was special needs and he was pretending he was an airplane and he crashed himself into a wall of controllers and all the controllers fell on him. He wasn't hurt, but could have been. So I've seen some stuff happen where kids are hanging out and playing the demos while the parents are out shopping. That happened at the mall location that I was at. It happened at a strip mall location because there was a nail salon next to us, and then there was a hair place a couple of doors down. And absolutely, but it wasn't really an issue. The kids, for the most part, kept to themselves. They just played the demo. They would look around at some games. It was a little annoying when they would screw up the sections. They would get things out of alphabetical order. Sometimes they would ask us questions because they were killing time. I did have that quite a bit where they just wanted to talk to someone, and I would tell them, hey man, I'm busy. I'm trying to alphabetize these games. I'm trying to process these used games. Sometimes they'd get the hint, sometimes they wouldn't. And they were regulars. We knew the kids that were just there to kill time and did the best we could with it, because it can be a little distracting and a little annoying to try to answer these questions that it's like you're just asking nonsense.
Or what I think, those kids grew up into people who like to ask people questions that they knew the answer to.
Yes.
Or they'll ask a question with the answer in it and they'll go, right? And you're like, oh, it seems like you knew the answer. The fuck are you like? All the time that happens at my job where we have multiple stations open and like, it'll be like, hey, what can I get for you? And they say, let me get 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, let me run to the back and grab that. And let's say now I'm ringing up next to that person who's going to grab 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've already grabbed my stuff, but I haven't grabbed my patient yet. And I'm ringing them up. They want to, now they see me free. Their person's gone. So they have to start a conversation with me. And it's like, dude, you're with your person. They'll be back in a second. I'm over on this register about to go grab a person. Like that cross talking, like, oh, so blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, yes, thanks. Yes. Now, yeah, sorry for that little tangent. If you can't tell, that happened like 3 times tonight. Still a little fucking spicy about it.
Yeah.
Especially you. We close at 8, 7:57. You want to have a conversation? No.
Of course they do.
No, I will not have a conversation with you. What do you want? And I will go get it. And that's where we stop right now.
Nick, you don't have any place to be. You're just there to serve them.
Fucking think not, right?
You sleep in the back.
Doors to count. Yeah, I don't have doors to lock and stuff to do. I have to talk to you about something I could have talked to you about when I got here at 9 a.m. So like, let's wrap this shit up, bud.
That's one of the differences between our clientels right now, because at the comic shop, the owner would say we're like the bartenders of the nerd world, where people talk to us about non-comic stuff all the time, including the movies and all that stuff. So there was we were encouraged to talk to people and get them chatting and all of that. Here at this card shop, it's people that a lot of people that don't work, a lot of people that only talk to their card game friends or only play online card games, and then just leave the house to come and trade cards in or to buy cards. So a lot of times it's, hey, how's it going? And then they give me a number, 2814. And that's their cart number for their warehouse order. And that's when I'm like, okay, ring them up. Here's their total. And not a word after that. Not a single word from them. They just a cart number. So these customers, when it is a customer that wants to talk or that wants to chit chat, it's very different for me. It's like, this is unheard of. But oddly enough, you would think I'd welcome it because most of my customers are antisocial. But it's obnoxious because I'm like, I just want to go in the back and grab your shit. Like, I don't.
Give me your fucking number. Let's go.
Yes, I'll get you your cards. If you want to talk while I'm giving you your cards, great. But let's not talk about Magic decks. And do you think that this Yu-Gi-Oh deck is good? It's like, I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh. I can't help you. That's one positive thing about that is I don't play. Sorry. We're not a helpline.
Yeah, and also too, like, I don't know, what is good? That's the other thing too. Like, what do, like, they'll say to me, do you think this one's good? And I'll be like, what is good?
Exactly.
You know, what are you trying to achieve is more the question you should be asking. And then from there I could see if its effects will follow through. But like, what is good? I don't know, man. It's like going to imagine sitting at a restaurant and just like the waitress or waiter coming over and being like, hey, what can I get for you? And they're just like, I don't know, let me get something delicious.
Yeah, or what would you recommend? I used to be a server and I did not like, what would you recommend? And it's like, okay, well, what do you want? Do you want a protein? Do you want something lighter? It's like, well, whatever. And then as soon as I suggest something, then they're like, oh, well, I wasn't looking for a sandwich. I was looking more for like a breakfast item. And it's like, okay, so you do have something you're looking for.
Yes, exactly.
Drives me nuts.
Absolutely, it does. Where it's like, we can get there together, but help me help you.
Yeah, don't leave it broad and then give me specifics later. It's crazy. But I will say I when my parents would go to Target when I was a kid, I was one of the kids that would hang out at the gaming kiosk and play. That's how I first played Star Fox 64. I remember my neck was like destroyed because the TVs, for some reason, they had the controllers really close to the kiosk and then the TV was up like another 5 feet. So my neck was just looking up almost as if you sit in the front seat of a theater. And I was so enthralled by Star Fox 64. It had the rumbles going on the controller. And that's the first time I'd ever seen or held a rumble controller. And they must have been like 30 to 40 minutes while my parents were shopping at Target. And by the time they came to get me, I was like, oh my God, my neck. I still remember the pain. Like it hurt so much. But yeah, I was one of those kids hanging out at Target playing kiosks. No GameStop, no comic shop hangouts, but Target was my jam.
I was jealous of you, just so you know. I was the kid who had their hand on the cart, and I was like, Mom, can we? No, keep going. All right.
Damn. Yeah, I feel bad for you, man. But now you can hang out at Target all you want.
I do. And I do. Yes. It's
Good.
One of my favorite places to go as an adult. I really do enjoy it, especially with my wife. We can just go and kind of sit and walk around, and it's a good time.
Kelly and I have Target dates, believe it or not, where we're like, let's drop off the kid. We don't have Leo right now. Okay, let's go to Target by ourselves.
Yeah, 100% believe it.
Like it's kind of weird.
No, I think that's fucking beautiful. I really, truly do. It is one of my honest to God happy places. And that's what bothers me when sometimes those employees are unhappy, because I think the same thing that they think when they come into my job, like, this must be the best. And like, I get you're at work, but like, you could still, like, I don't know, like everybody was talking about it the other day. And like, I think that you can be at work and having fun, but you can't come to work to have fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's counterproductive, but you can work and have fun, but don't come here to have fun.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Thanks.
We were talking about movie theaters earlier, which is another place we can just hang out at if we wanted to, buy tickets all day. It's weird how much freedom we have as adults. But with the movie theaters, people are not afraid of going back. People are back. We're hitting huge numbers already with stuff like Spider-Man No Way Home and Top Gun Maverick. Amazing returns for that movie, and I love that movie. But Jurassic World Dominion has now reached the $1 billion club at the global box office after 4 months in theaters. A sequel has not yet been announced, and Jurassic World Dominion is currently out already on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray, DVD, digital, and it's available for streaming on Peacock. So in spite of all this, It is still in some theaters, and it has crossed $1 billion. We've got to get a Jurassic World 4, right? There's no way there's an end to dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah. Personally, I don't think that they'll go with this guy and the lady anymore. By that, I guess I mean Chris Pratt and Dallas Bryce Howard. I think that'll stop, but we'll never get enough of dinosaurs. No, never.
Well, that's good because Leo will live off of reruns, but it was fun taking him to watch Jurassic World Dominion and seeing his little body in the giant seat with his big thing of popcorn and just in awe as he watched the giant dinosaurs go at it. And I really am happy that this did as well as it did. And I think you are right. Although Chris Pratt, or one of them, maybe Bryce did, said on Instagram, we don't know yet if there'll be more, like as of them saying we're open to returning. And I don't know if they will, but I think you're right. With this trilogy, maybe they'll make a little appearance in a future trilogy, like as a backup or standard character. But they're not the cheapest actors in the world, and especially Bryce, who's doing directing now. I know she's involved in some Disney Plus stuff, and Chris Pratt as well. You know, he's considered an A-lister, an A-list action star these days. So their price is only going up, especially after $1 billion in Jurassic World Dominion, and the other ones did well too. But a fresh cast for a new trilogy, I can absolutely see that happening.
I want a Jurassic Park 3.5. And what I mean by that is I want Jurassic Park 3, but just from the kid's perspective the whole time. You know, when he's like, hey, I got this Tyrannosaurus piss. And Alan's like, how'd you get that? And he goes, you don't want to know. Fuck you. I do want to know. Let me see that movie, man. That'd be cool. I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of the entire thing of them like, I can't believe we thought we were going to do this and we could control it. And guess we were wrong. And just like, yeah, all right, I saw that setup coming. Let's go for like a Planet of the Apes, but it's like first the dinosaurs. Maybe we tried to build the first one in Australia and now we lost Australia and we got to go back for it or so. I don't know. I just want to see something different the next time we see them. But in terms of dinosaurs, no, I don't think that IP, if you can call it that, will ever die. Like, who doesn't love dinosaurs? It's because the conversation with you and I, dude, I've added into my daily repertoire of what's your favorite dinosaur? And then, dude, I blew a fucking coworker's brain the other day when I was like, because he said pterodactyl. And I was like, no, those aren't actually dinosaurs. And he's like, yes, they are. I was like, no, Daniel taught me different, sir. And we went into it.
Boom.
It was a good time. Yeah, they're not dinosaurs. Just in case anybody wasn't there for that conversation, they're not. And if they were in the ocean, still not dinosaurs.
That's right. That's right. And Jurassic Park, the first one came released in the 90s, changed the world forever. There's an amazing documentary of that on Netflix. And that's something to be remembered, something I love to revisit, but something that should never be remembered, never brought back, in my opinion, are certain 90s comic books. And there's a place for them. There were some gems in there. But DC, who's already doing 90s variants, they've announced those last month. They're doing these weird covers that are homages to the 90s. They don't look good, honestly, but they're doubling down on it with not just the dozen variant covers across all of their big titles, but they are bringing back the multi-level embossed foil covers for Batman Incorporated #2, Batman #129, The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing #2, JSA #1, and Wildcats #1. And I don't know if you've seen the images of these, but they look just as fucking terrible as they did in the 90s.
Why are we doing this? So yes, agreed. But why are we doing this? Are people still are there still multiple copy buyers like that?
For certain, it's more of a speculator market, and I guess it was in the 90s too, and that's a bad thing because in the 90s, comics almost died because of speculators. Hey, you got to get your Death of Superman, get your 10 copies of that because it's going to be worth money. Any #1s, Spawn #1, get it because it's going to be worth money. And that's when they started releasing, it would literally say collector's item on the cover of the comic, as if that wasn't already a warning enough. Like, why would anything be collectible that says collector's item on it? It just doesn't make sense, at least in comics. So I don't know, man. I got to talk to my comic shop and see if they're even getting any pre-orders on these. But I personally don't see this doing well. I bought comics in the 90s and have since gone back and bought some stuff in the 80s and 70s and so on. But embossed foil covers were not comics that I went back and tried to pick up. Not even as a kid was I hey, that looks really cool. Let me pick that up. I see adults that did it over the years. They would pick up holofoil covers from the 80s and 90s, and we'd mark them up $5, maybe 10. Nothing crazy, but it's just one of those things. They don't look good. None of these covers are amazing even for today's standards. You have these incredible artists at your disposal, and they go to waste with these covers. It's just and they're going to be more than the regular covers. There's no way they're cheaper to print. I'm sure these are going to be at least $6.99. So on top of that, you're paying more for these shitty looking covers, and it just blows me away. I get that we're far enough from the 90s where this is considered nostalgic, and maybe you want to try to bring some of that back, but not this, man. Like, this is not the way to do it. And I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe they sell out, but I don't think they're going to.
I'd be curious to sit and see with you. The only ones I could think of in my collection, if you remember, are Robin comics. I got them from somebody at the Kubert School. So, sorry, I can't even say that they were mine. And it's just, there's a card on each of them. And that card is what I call it shiny, but I guess the real word is holographic or something like that. And they're fine. Again, I have them because I've had them for like a decade now, but I don't look at those and go, why don't we do this again? You know what I mean? Like it never really struck me of, oh, this is when we made comics or covers cool, man. Like it's fine.
There was one cover, because I know you're a Kevin Smith fan, and this humor is not too much for you, but there was one cover of the Human Torch. Coworker and I was like, okay, you go dirty on your humor, great, you and I can talk. So there was this Human Torch variant. It might have been Fantastic Four, where it's an embossed cover, so you can feel all the different flames and whatnot, but it was completely white. So they printed it all in white, and it's a Human Torch like yelling, and it's just the torch, the flames or whatever, all look like drops or water. It just looked like he was wet. So we were like, it's just, he's covered in cum. Like someone just came all over the Human Torch, and this is that cover. and it's like, if one of these gets printed in white, that's what's going to happen. Like we're just going to make that joke again. And it doesn't always work, unfortunately.
No, I don't see the hoopla, especially too. What did you say the number? Dozen? A dozen variant covers spread across. Yeah, no, that's too many. A dozen. I'm not going to collect 12 and nothing.
No, not at all. And I'm shocked. I was surprised at first that Wildcats is coming back, but Jim Lee is the man in charge, and that's his baby. For me, the fact that it's an ongoing doesn't make sense. That part doesn't make sense. Make it a miniseries, because I know there are not enough Wildcats fans out there to sustain an ongoing series. It's going to go for 6 to 12 issues, and then it's going to get canceled. I'm calling it now.
I honestly had to look that up. And even as I looked it up, I saw the imagery, and I was like, nope, not 100% recognizable, but okay.
I think Grifter is the only character that came out of that. Maybe Gen 13, I guess, but still not enough.
Grifter, yes. I can imagine him from Flashpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was originally Image, and then when Jim Lee, because Image allowed the creators to retain their rights, when Jim Lee became a DC guy, he brought his creations with him, so that made Wildcats, including the Grifter, a DC character once that deal took place. So yeah, since then he's been in an animated movie, and maybe one day on the big screen, who knows?
That'd be cool.
We do have some Warner Brothers Discovery news, as an Illinois police pension fund is suing WBD, alleging that they deceived investors by misrepresenting the HBO Max subscriber numbers during their merger with Discovery. So the lawsuit states, quote, Warner Media was improvidently concentrating its investments in streaming and ignoring its other business lines, and overstated the number of subscribers to HBO Max by as many as 10 million subscribers, by including subscribers, AT&T customers who had received bundled access to HBO Max but had not signed on to the service, end quote. So that's called cooking the books. That's as clear as day. They're saying, oh, AT&T subscribers, they get HBO Max, they have access to it, they're subscribers. Well, how many of them did you convert, though? How many of them actually signed on and had an account? And that's where the problem is.
Yeah. A little shady. I love you, though, dude. That was so fucking funny. That's what they call cooking the books. Like, yeah, you're right. I mean, but at the same, it's like, I remember, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but Kevin Smith tells a story about Prince, and he sold tickets to a concert, and with every concert ticket, you got a CD, and his CD went up to number one because everybody bought all the CDs. But it was like it reminds me of the same thing. Like, did they buy the CD? No,
Right.
not really. They bought the so that's I don't know why that's where my mind went for comparison, but
It's the exact same thing.
it is, yeah. So I mean, I wonder. I don't know, dude. I feel like two super talented lawyers, which they're gonna be because they're gonna be expensive. If I had to bet, see, like this is the shit. Why don't we get this on CNN or like the Lawsuit Channel or some shit like that? I would love to hear these people argue about why it is or isn't. Because to be honest, if I was sitting in the jury, I could go either way. Like you're right, they had access. Were you asking what a subscriber is or who had access? What's the difference between those two? Somebody who actively seeks it, somebody who doesn't know. Like I don't know. You know, if you're paying for gym membership but you're not going, like, are you really a member?
Exactly. Yeah, that's that same kind of logic. What makes
I
this
don't
even
know.
weirder is AT&T owned HBO Max, so they're going, okay, we already have this many customers that get cell phones, these many accounts. We're now going to make HBO Max accessible to all 100 million. Oh, look, we just got 100 million subscribers, even though how many of them are actually using the service?
Yeah, when you put it that way, that's that sounds incorrectly put together. Yes, it's one does not have to dictate the other. They are not mutually exclusive.
It'll be very interesting to see what they settle out of this. I think some of that is shareholders that are behind this lawsuit, I would assume. And I am currently a shareholder with both AT&T and Warner Brothers Discovery. And Kelly was like, does that mean you're going to get something out of this payout? I'm like, I doubt it. If I do, it's going to be a decade down the line. And it's going to be like those lawsuits that, I don't know if you've ever gotten a letter of that, where it's like, here's a dime as a check because you you went to AMC sometime in the last 5 years. So here's a portion of your lawsuit. Have you ever gotten one of those?
I always just thought it was nonsense though. I thought I'd have to do something. I didn't realize like that was a real check that I could cash for quote unquote cash for 10 cents. I always just thought it was nonsense. And then like the second I put in real information, they're like, gotcha. My information now. And it's fuck.
They got me. Yeah, no, those are real. You can cash straight into your account and you get your dime. They split the settlement up among all the people that shopped at Target or whatever when there was a little credit card hack. And
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
so that's probably what's going to end up happening when this is all said and done. Just more, I guess, bad news. It's Toby Emmerich or whoever was involved in AT&T's higher ups that thought this was a good idea, and it's not going to look good. It's just more shit that David Zaslav has now inherited. Like, holy fuck, man! What timing?
I was thinking the same exact thing of this guy just like probably sitting somewhere rubbing his temple right now, just like that little bitch Toby, that mother little fucking son of like just left him.
It's absolutely insane. Some people were saying on Twitter, how would they not fire him already by now? Because he has a little studio that they gave him as a part of the deal to like leave. Like you have your little production studio under Warner Brothers, but that's it. At this point, I'd be like, get the fuck out, man. You've left a bigger mess than I thought you did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it really is starting to sound like. You left a bigger, you undersold what I had to come in here and clean up. And he's probably just like, I did. I'm really good at my job. He probably takes that as a fucking compliment to little cocksucker.
Well, the opposite end, Warner Brothers Discovery, they're still finding their way. They're still trying to maybe restore, maybe not, figuring out what 10-year plan they want to put together. Zaslav's final plan is to sell this all off to Comcast anyway. So a lot of ways to still make that company profitable. But someone that is listening to their fans on the other end, as much as I don't like them, is Disney and Marvel Studios, as Ryan Reynolds has confirmed through Twitter that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine will appear in Deadpool 3. They also confirmed a release date of September 6th, 2024. This is news that I did not expect, and I get it. You add enough zeros to anyone's check, they will do whatever you want them to do. But Hugh Jackman seemed like he was 1,000% done with the role, especially after how they tied it all up with Logan.
And that's what, at the end of the day, really bothers me, and I'll get to, because I will rant about this for a moment, if that's okay.
Please.
So yes, if you add enough zeros, that's fine and everything. And I understand, too, when you're so adamant about talking about, I won't do this, it's usually at the end of doing it, if you ask me, i.e., like, I have a good amount of tattoos, and at the end of all of them, or during them, I'm like, this kind of sucks, man. I don't really like this. And then at the end, I'm like, all right, maybe that was it. This is really starting to get a little old. And then like a month later, I'm like, all right, that wasn't that bad. And then like a year later, if I can wait that long, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's the same thing for him. So to completely say that I never saw him doing it again, I was going to maybe take a 5% chance. What ruined that 5% chance for me, though, is how beautifully Logan ended and like, why are we going to do this, man? I'm not on board because all right, to continue the rant, dude, I'm so sorry. He's a person he did a good job with the role. It's nice, but like I've always seen my Wolverine a little bit differently in my head. So I was ready for some fresh blood to kind of take it over. And eventually we have to, guys. All right. We have to, as an entire culture of nerds, if you will. We can't just keep giving them back the money that we gave them in the 90s because like they just keep bringing it back. They don't want to hire a new Wolverine because everybody's losing their fucking minds over about the old Wolverine coming back. Where in my opinion, the whole time it could have been somebody different because like, have you ever seen Wolverine in the comics? That's not what he looks like, guys. Like we could really have a chance to make a comic accurate. Like, isn't that the point? If not, if you want a character or if you want to know, like, just watch something else, but I want to see the actual character of Wolverine the way I've always had him in my head after reading him from the source material in this certain way. And it's not what Hugh Jackman looks like. However, what he does do is really awesome. So it's been working this whole time. But when it was put to fucking bed, man, I was like, good. Let's see what happens now. Now we can really maybe get this guy who I don't always want to root for. I will, but I don't always want to. Whereas Hugh Jackman, he's the main person in those. You can't not like him. So I want a dirtier, I don't want to say grittier because that's the fucking keyword of 2020s anymore. But I just want something a little bit maybe darker, a little bit more tortured and less beautiful about it, if you will. I don't know. I had high hopes that when we delved back in to X-Men and especially to him, that something different was going to be. And now they're just like, oh boy, look, it's that thing you like. And it's like, all right, thank you, Mickey Mouse. We'll watch it again.
And people are losing their shit over it. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Well, and they've been doing, these are the same people that have been doing a bunch of fan castings. There's been, this person's in talks to play Wolverine for the MCU. And it seems like the people were ready as well. As a whole, the fan base was like, okay, no one was clamoring, hey, bring back Hugh Jackman. They kind of accepted that he was done. And now I guess it's like a surprise or whatever. And I don't know if anyone expects him to come back for more Wolverine roles. And I have seen a lot of confusion, and I don't know if you're more plugged into the MCU than I am, but a lot of people are asking, does this mean that Hugh Jackman is now the Wolverine for the MCU, or is this one of their multiverse films that, even though it's connected to the MCU, they've said that Deadpool will be connected to the MCU, that it doesn't necessarily mean that he is that universe's Wolverine?
Correct. So we did learn in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness that there is a Patrick Stewart looking motherfucker who is Charles Xavier. So whether or not that is also the Fox Charles Xavier that we've been following this whole time. So I mean, we could delve into that universe, which has a number in which I don't know, but that's quote unquote not our MCU universe, if you will. So it could do that. Deadpool could only exist in that universe, in which, spoilers for you or anybody listening, they blew up Doctor Strange. Black Bolt fucking whispered a word and he exploded. But now with that one, I don't know where that would fall in the timeline and the whole shit. I don't know. I don't think so, though, personally. I don't think that guy would run into Tom Holland, Spider-Man, or who else is popular in those movies. They killed about everybody else. Shit. I guess Thor is still pretty popular, even though that movie people hate.
Yeah.
Shit, who's in the MCU that's not on TV right now? Like,
that's not on
TV? The MCU right now?
Well, Brie Larson, even her Miss Marvel is on TV, right? She showed up in Miss Marvel.
She did at the very end.
So
just in the movies,
not Hawkeye even, because he had a show, or she had it. There was a She-Hawkeye, right?
Yeah. I used to really like Haley Steinfeld, so I did try that one out. That was fine.
I think they've all been on TV, or they're dead, or old, like Captain America.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't think of who's in Phase 4 that's brand new that could run into anybody from the new folding in X-Men or whatever the hell. So it might not be a problem at all.
My only thing about Deadpool 3, I'm not going to see it. I didn't see Deadpool 2. I didn't like Deadpool 1. I thought it was great that they made it, but I'm not a Deadpool fan, and that's kind of the problem. But now with this being a Disney Deadpool 3, that's my concern for fans of that, because I know that this won't be a Fox-produced Deadpool 3, which also means that the Deadpool 3 that they would have made is not what we're getting here. This is absolutely a Kevin Feige messed around with production. This is something that, that even though the writers are like, oh no, we're going to make it an R-rated movie and it's unrestricted. And it's like, bullshit, man. Disney and Kevin Feige have some ground rules for Deadpool 3. There's a lot of shit that they told him, you can't do this. You can't joke about this. That is absolutely not going to be in Deadpool 3. So that's my biggest problem, is this is going to be a disservice to the fans. And if I were a Deadpool fan and I enjoyed those first two movies, I'd probably not see number 3 or watch it, probably be disappointed and say, okay, well, that's not included in my 2 Deadpool films because it's not even the same people making it. That's my biggest gripe with it right now.
Maybe that's why they did exactly why they did, for exactly to have the amount of people that were pissed off in what you were saying. Like, oh, but Hugh Jackman's in it. And they're like, fuck, they got me.
Fucking mouse, man. They know how to make money. I'll give them that. And that's one thing I will agree with them on. Someone on Twitter said, here's Disney giving MCU fans the world, literally. And Warner Brothers Discovery, Hamada can't do shit. No one can do shit. Zaslav's figuring it out still. And it's like, we're starving, man. We're starving over here.
It's funny. So like I have that half sleeve Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Hard Traveling Heroes tattoo. I just got a new little Superman. So basically what I'm trying to say is like my entire left tattoo arm is all DC. And somebody saw it the other day at work and they're like, oh, a DC fan. I was like, hardcore, man. He goes, you're super hard to find, or you're not easy to see the spot, something like that. It's like, there's just few of us, man. Marvel they just keep giving them everything. Yes, I almost shared the exact same sentiment of, for us to get the really great stuff, in my opinion, we got to go to the past and go to animated for the most part, of like just solid hit after hit after hit after hit. Not that there's not good stuff in the past, obviously the Snyder stuff, but I mean, for more than as an entire universe, I guess. I love the DCAU.
Yeah, and for better or for worse, man, Marvel fans, they are spoiled as hell, aren't they? Like, they literally have everything. They got theme parks, they got worlds. If this were flipped at Disney, let's say it's Universal Studios instead, or there's a Warner Brothers park, we'd be visiting like an Apocalypse Land or a Gotham City Land, shit like that. That's the level of goodness that Marvel and Disney fans have it. They have a whole Star Wars land here in Florida, and I just couldn't help but think, I don't even have a fraction of that in my fandom. I can, visit Six Flags and maybe ride a DC ride?
My man, that was the only thing I was going to bring up, is like, that's the only thing I can remember growing up of that magnitude, is when our local Six Flags got the Superman ride, in which you enter sitting down and then they lift your butt up. So you're technically laying, like, all your weight's on your belly. So you're flying.
Like you're flying,
you
yeah.
Through. It's fucking dope. But yeah, even then, at quote unquote Metropolis, as you enter that, it's just fucking cardboard. And then you made me think, imagine if Disney dollars built a Gotham City. Just short of getting mugged, but I mean,
I was going to say, you get mugged also.
The alleyways and just the detail and all that, because Disney does do that great, dude. They know their Imagineers and stuff. If they had that IP, you can't say it. It'd be one of the coolest experiences ever.
You'd be able to visit Crime Alley and pay respects to the Waynes. I bet you'd be able to.
Oh my God, yep. You'd be able to walk in and they'd give you a rose and you get to stand under the streetlight. And there'd be like, oh my God. Oh, Daniel, I'm whelming a little bit, sir. I could tear up at that fucking thing. You would. And then you'd walk away and somebody would come up, pick up the rose, and they'd just keep letting people in. You'd be walking through, and every now and then maybe you'd hear a whoosh, as if like there's leather wings going by or some shit like that. You'd have the light up in the sky every now and then, especially when it got dark. Oh.
And let's be real. They'd sell us the rose like $10 and you can pay respect. Sure, here you go.
And some broken pearls too, so you can do the whole thing at home.
Hell yeah. Man, in an alternate universe.
You're right.
But that does wrap up our news for this week. Let's head into the Rocket block, which is the more personal side of the podcast, what Nick and I have been up to since you last heard us. Before we jump into some of these fun questions, please update us on what you've been up to since you were last on.
In terms of, how you brought it up in the beginning of what I'm getting nerdy on, what's making me broke is the HBO we were just talking about too, that House of the Dragon, the HBO Game of Thrones. I mean, spinoff. Fuck, that shit's good, dude. We're 6 episodes in. I think we're 6 episodes in now. Just happened, and unfortunately, I don't know however you want to look at it. Season 6 or season 1, episode 6 was like the true pilot, man. Shit really got cooking. If you're a fan of the show, like, yeah, it's got dragons and battles and blood and stuff, but some of my favorite parts of the show are the good conversations where two people are measuring dicks, but they're not just whipping it out and being like, look, it's slight little looks, gestures, small hints of conversation that let you know I know stuff. And, in this world where we can put on armor and kill each other, then that's dangerous. What I know is actually more dangerous. So don't fuck with me. And like those little things are what, in my opinion, made Game of Thrones super cool and a really good show. And in this prequel, we've just set up a lot of time. These first 5 episodes was basically exposition, some cool stuff in between there, nice imagery, a lot more dragons, as to be expected with a show called House of the Dragons. However, like it just took a while. And now it seems like finally episodes 1 through 5 were them setting up the chessboard, and now episode 6, was the first pawn moving. It was the first actual move of like, okay, here we go, off and running. And shit was good. Shit was so good I had to run out and get the book, because now I just want to read that. Because in terms of the books versus seasons for Game of Thrones, those were always different, and I hear this is kind of different too. So we'll see.
So the House of Dragons books had already been out before they did the show?
Yeah, it's called Fire and Blood is the name of that. And that's what inspired this House of Dragons. Because from what I hear, there's a lot of similarities, a lot, but kind of like the books too, where they're just like, this shit's too freaking thick. And you talk about a lot of stuff that we don't even need to kind of assume to bring up because it's pointless. You just made up, I think I read somewhere, he made up like 1,300 character names. There's 1,300 named people in Game of Thrones throughout the entire thing or some shit like that. So they've left a lot of that out. I do watch a show, I think I brought it up last time, from New Rock Stars. This guy, Eric Boss, breaks down stuff really cool. And he was talking about like the opening of it on 1,300 characters. Where was it going with that? Sorry. Oh, so he does. And he said there was a comparison of one of the things that happened. I won't spoil for anybody, but it's a death. I'll just leave it at that. And it happened at different times, though the circumstances were very similar. The timetable moved, so I'm like, ooh, like it's not even going to be like reading a novelization of it. I'll still be surprised by both, but that's where most of my time's been going. That, and I think we were talking off mic a little bit. It's a shit ton of work. Unfortunately, the COVID has hit us very small team pretty hard, so just doing a lot of doubles. I'm trying to get a promotion again, so like. It's just a good time to show up and be a team player, and that's what I just keep doing. And overtime is sweet too, time and a half.
Fuck yeah.
Can't beat that, dude. Yeah, I can't beat that right now too, just trying to save as much as I can and see what's up in the future. But
you and I are the same. I'm one of those guys. Maybe I used to be in my early 20s where I'd be like, nah, I don't really want overtime. I'll go home early. I was definitely one of those at Disney. I'll go home early. Sure, you're sending people home early. But now I'm always like, no, never. Like my boss now knows, Bobby, he's like, yeah, I know you don't want to go home. I'm like, nope. And he'll ask everyone else, like, does anyone want to go home? I'm there for the hours. I will, when we work holidays, time and a half, I'm fucking dancing. I'm like, fuck yeah, time and a half, double time. It's actually double time. I'm like, this is amazing. I'll work any President's Day, whatever, Labor Day, fuck it. Get that double time. Get it when you can. That's the mentality. Get it when you can.
Same page, dude. Same story of when I was younger. It's like, oh, you're sending people home, I'll go. Then no, that's not why I'm here at all. I have a great story. I pissed off a lady at a movie theater once who was sending people home. And she's like, Nick, you can go home. And I was like, no, I'm good. She's like, well, I wasn't really asking. I was like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm staying for my scheduled shift. She's like, I'm gonna go talk to the boss. And I was like, all right, bro, like that's cool.
Mhm.
And she did. He's like, no, he's right. You can't make him go home. Like, we scheduled him for this time.
Exactly. That's a misconception a lot of people have, especially if they're younger, where they think they have to, and you don't. Is if you got scheduled, you're good.
That's what fucking bothers me right now, sir. If we can even take this little broquette block for me,
Yeah.
just to once again get on a soapbox of like, in my opinion, it's an unsigned or an unshaken handshake schedule of a contract. I promised you these hours, and then you have to come for them as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't send you home early if you fuck up. Like, if you do something like, spit in a customer's face, I don't know, some shit like that. Like that, then we get into relatively terms. But if we're just slow and I say, hey, you got to leave. No, you don't. Those are your hours. It's not your problem that we're slow. I'll find something for you. Like, find something for me to do, dude. But no, I'm not leaving. And at the same time, like, understand when you call out, like, what's the matter? Like, what do you mean, what's the matter? We promised you those, and that means we couldn't promise them to somebody else. And,
Yes.
just tonight, I had to go and call somebody else in who was wonderfully kind, amazingly generous with his time, came right in and was great about doing it. But like, I could have given, they could have been scheduled for that. And I know shit happens and stuff, but like, it would be nice that if we can all realize, like, it's a commitment to everybody to get on the same page of like, that's why we made a schedule, and especially us, 3 weeks in advance.
That's not enough for some of these people, man. You can give them a month in advance and it doesn't matter. It's insane.
Crazy.
But it's good that you are coming forward for your team. I'm sure that stuff's going to be remembered, especially during these periods of times where you can't find good workers, you can't find reliable people, you can't find people to stick around even. So all that stuff, I hope, is going to eventually be appreciated, or at least something you can bring up when promotion time or payday time comes, when review time, for example, comes, and it's like, hey, I've been reliable, I showed up, I stayed, I did doubles. How many people can say that these days?
Not too many. And that's what bothers me. Everywhere I go seems to have a long line, and then they come to my store and they're like, why is the long line? I'm like, they're long. Everybody has long lines because nobody's showing up, man. Like, that is where we're at right now. You just got to get on board with that. Like, you're at the fucking McDonald's, dude. I'm telling you, it takes a while anymore.
Everything takes longer. Everyone's out of everything. I mean, this should be normal for everyone. It's kind of crazy still.
Yeah, it really is.
But I did want to ask you one thing about the Game of Thrones show. It seemed to have brought a lot of people back, and I know there was a lot of angry viewers by the end of that show. I heard all about it at the comic shop. People were telling me how pissed off they were. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it online. But a lot of these fans came back for this House of Dragons, and why do you think that is? That they weren't so pissed off by the ending that they were willing to come back for this show?
Oh, the same thing I talked about earlier with the tattoo. Fucking stupidity, sir. We're so stupid. We don't remember. We know how angry we were, but we don't really remember. We just tell ourselves over and over how angry we were. It's the same reason, we have more kids, get more tattoos. Like the pain has become dull enough that we remembered, yeah, it was pretty bad, but you don't really remember how bad, because I was pissed when that show ended. I was like, really? That's it? And now I'm just like, all right. It was bad, but it's not that bad. Like, maybe I think it's hope, just to be a little cheesy. It's the hope that maybe they'll fucking stick the landing this time. Because the thing about Game of Thrones was it went on 9 seasons. It wasn't bad until it was bad. And I know that sounds stupid to say, but when you go back and rewatch 1 through 5, just peak in a sense that's like, this is a great show, especially right into the meat and potatoes of like 4 in the beginning of 5 and stuff. And then 6 is fine. And then 7, 8, and 9, it just goes. It just really goes. And you're hoping, all right, at least at the end of 9, it'll be over. We'll have all the answers. Everything that we've gone through will at least get tied up. And no matter how rushed it is, it'll get tied up. And there was a lot of things that you can go back and be like, never talked about this again. Oh, we brought this up. Never saw this again. Just a good amount of stuff that made certain scenes in the seasons that I was talking about excellent that just went nowhere, absolutely fucking nowhere. So I hope with all that constructive criticism, every move they make at least has a good sense and isn't just for dramatic flair.
If I haven't seen all of the first run of Game of Thrones, Can I go into House of Dragons, or will I miss a lot of the references as I go through it?
I don't think you'll miss anything. No, this is a complete prequel. So like they start the show just so everybody gets on the same page of like, this is 600 years before that bitch we just watched, Daenerys Targaryen. And then they just start. The only thing that's hard about it is like any Game of Thrones thing. It's exactly what I brought up here of like George R.R. Martin, just like, let me come up with 800 houses that all have 15 kids of different names and go. Like, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, which houses are they're the Strongs? And no, those are the Lannisters. And then you have these people that are Targaryens. And like, there's just a lot of names that's hard to keep up with. So that's why I suggest that either that new Rockstars guy, or there's also another great one, Alt Shift X, does a lot of great breakdowns of a lot of stuff, Game of Thrones wise. But it just helps again with the names. There's a lot of names, so it's super hard. That's what I hope the book will help with. That actually reading some of them will help stick in my mind what house we're going through and who's marrying who for what conquest of, power or whatever the hell they're always. It's basically always power or gold.
Well, I will be diving into it eventually. I think I will give it a shot because I like season 1 of the original show, but it was a season that I saw all in one day because my friend's like, you got to watch the show. You're going to love it. And from early afternoon till night, we watched all of season 1 and I was burned out, but I did like it. I just didn't, that's enough for me.
That's too much. Yes, absolutely.
But I think this, I can watch maybe one a week and probably get more enjoyment out of it. I did get to dive into Netflix's Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And I don't know if you heard, but this anime did really well on Netflix. So well that people are now going back to Cyberpunk 2077 and giving that game another shot. It famously came out a little too early, and there were a lot of bugs in the game, a lot of unpromised features that didn't make it on there until they made some patches, and some of which have still not shown up in the game. Terrible launch for the title. It pretty much killed the franchise. It became a joke. Up until now, oddly enough, the anime helped bring back so many players to the game. It now peaked at number of players and number of users higher than The Witcher 3, which is considered a successful game. And now it's doing incredibly well. And there's a bunch of custom mods that people are making for characters that showed up in the anime that are not in the game. People just took to this show and are now making those features and art a part of that game that was considered at least a failed launch back when that came out. And that just kind of blew me away because I have been seeing so many tribute pieces on Instagram to Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and honestly, it's an all right show. But I've been seeing that, and mainly for the surprise of a fucking show just saved a video game franchise. That's literally what is happening right now.
Interesting. And that was on Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It debuted last week.
I'm going to have to look at that one. Like I said, I've got so little time anymore that some of the times on Netflix, I don't know why I just find myself going back into stuff that I've already watched. Like, I'm just not willing to dare to waste these like good 2 hours that I have before I'm going to fall asleep on something new, just in case it sucks. But that sounds interesting. I'll try that one.
Yeah, give it a shot. I will say I'm not the demographic for it. It does have some of that, like, this teen is down on his luck, and look at all these terrible things that happen to him, and the world is against him, insurance sucks. And then I'm just like, if I were maybe 5 years younger, maybe 10 years younger, I would fucking love this show. But I've kind of seen a lot of that type of story already with a bunch of characters like, oh, look at this character, his world is ending, but now he's got this other thing, this world that just opened up to him, and it's like, all right, I've seen it before. I see why it's successful, but you and I may not be the demographic for it. But I'd be curious to see what you thought of it anyway, just because it is a very different show than what I'm used to, and especially for anime, because it is futuristic and there is some blood and gore, but the blood and gore is so stylized that it's something I've never seen or experienced in a little bit of anime that I've seen. So it's got me hooked for now, at least for the character designs and very stylized directing that they've been doing with it. But the last thing I did get to see this week was the Scooby-Doo Encourage the Cowardly Dog crossover. I think you and I had talked about that before, right?
We did. Yes. Yeah, man. How was it?
It was good. It felt more like a Courage the Cowardly Dog movie than it did Scooby-Doo. And that's fine because Scooby and the gang went into the town of Nowhere, I think it was, and there's a mystery there. And so there's a lot of gags from Courage. There's some returning characters and villains that are featured in it. They also answer why the town of Nowhere has so much paranormal activity in it. And I'm like, oh, cool. So we get some closure in a way to that little show of Courage. And it was cool. I liked it. Leo liked it too. And he's only a fan of Scooby-Doo. He's never seen Courage, but it was enough to hold his attention. And it did feel like they never stopped making Courage. It picks up right where the show ended as far as the gags, the jokes, the voices, the animation. It's all exactly the same as the original.
I fucking like to hear that. Oh man. All right. I'm going to look for it. Did you rent it anywhere or buy it on like physical media, or was it available somewhere that I missed?
I rented it on Vudu for $4, but it is going to be on HBO Max on October 8th.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah. I'll wait that one out then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not one that you can buy it for $15. It's not worth it though, in my opinion. Wait for the price to go down or watch it for free on HBO Max for sure.
Well, before we get there, do you mind doing spoilers on the show? Can you tell me why all the weird stuff goes down in Nowhere?
Yeah, if you have not seen the show or if it's a big deal, this is your spoiler warning. But they talk about how the same comet or asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs, that landed in the spot that the town is in, basically. So deep underground, the center of that asteroid, which is considered indestructible, is down, buried deep underneath the town. And that asteroid that's made out of this alien material, this unknown material, causes dogs, and that's kind of what starts the movie, is it causes Scooby-Doo and Courage to have these weird visions and makes them kind of go crazy a little bit. And that meteor is altering reality. It's making things that aren't real. So things like ghosts, monsters, demons, that asteroid is the cause of all of that. So when they get down to the bottom someone's trying to harness that in the city of Nowhere. And by harnessing it, they have the power to alter reality is the idea. So that's what caused all of those things in the city of Nowhere for years.
One of the greatest plots I've ever heard might have just came like, that's brilliant. That is absurdly awesome. And I wish that I thought of it. Something alien that's not alien. It's been here for longer than us, but oh man, I love everything about that. Fuck it, I'm going to buy it. I think I have to own that now. That's such a good idea. I don't like that. Really struck me. Like, yes, of course, that would like quote unquote make sense for something that doesn't make sense. Of like, have you ever really? It's so funny. We always come back to dinosaurs. Have you ever really thought about the asteroid that struck the Earth past like right then?
Well, that's because they always told us it disintegrated, right? That it just left a crater.
I mean, it was moving too fast. We weren't, and boom, yeah, it was just gone. But it would make sense if, its core, if it was, quote unquote adamantium, if you will, for our kind of context, if there was something left over that just couldn't even get hot or fast enough to absolutely 100% disintegrate, and it would be an alien force on our planet. Yep.
That's exactly it.
Would make sense just to warp stuff enough to be like, that's weird. Fuck, I love that.
Yeah, let me know what you think of it when you do watch it, but that's basically what I've been up to this week. We do have Hurricane Ian that's coming through, and thankfully we're not recording tomorrow or the next day because I will lose power. I'm positive I will lose power. I will lose internet. We lose power here at home even when there's a light storm, so it's going to happen through a hurricane. We didn't over prepare. At least I didn't. We didn't go out and get tons of bottles of water, which is what everyone's been doing. I didn't fill up every tank that I have at home with gas. I didn't do any of that. We did pick up the backyard for anything that might be picked up, like pots and flower or plants and all that stuff, just so it doesn't get picked up and chucked through our windows. But that's all the preparing we did for the most part. It's supposed to be just 2 days of it, and I'm supposed to be back at work on Saturday. I get paid off on Wednesday, which is nice. And yeah, just hurricane. It's been a few years since we've gotten a hurricane here in Florida, this part of Florida. At first, they weren't thinking it was going to hit Central Florida, which is where we're at. And it sounds like it is. So I'm going to be editing this episode and hopefully getting it out before Sunday, getting it scheduled for Sunday. And that's crossing my fingers that I have internet by then.
Yeah, that's intense, man. It's semi unsettling how cool and calm you are about it. You think, yeah, I didn't, we just picked up some stuff and we'll do it. Obviously, good luck, and in any capacity I can help if needed. Obviously, shoot whatever you need my way, but that's intense.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I think it's because Kelly and I have been through, she's grown up with hurricanes all her life. And I've lived in Florida long enough to where I've been through several hurricanes myself. The problem is all the northerners that moved down during COVID. A lot of New Yorkers, a lot of people from California, a ton of them. South Park did a whole episode about people moving into out of big cities and into smaller towns. And Florida has been like a magnet for these people. So all these northerners that have never been through a hurricane, they're flipping out. They are losing their minds. So that's where that's coming from.
Gotcha. That's how it's going to be here in probably, let's look at the date, 2 or 3 months. Once the first big snowstorm is apparent, we'll go crazy and all the water will be gone again and all the salt will be gone again. I hope it's like what it is here in terms of like that story ends with us not getting any snow. I hope you guys, like you said, you'll probably get some rain. Hopefully that's all I'm hoping for you. I'm sorry for podcast listeners if you can hear the knock on the table. That's all I can. I'm sorry. I hope the best for you, dude. That to me, that's scary shit. To you, you're just like, yeah, it's Florida.
Pretty much. I appreciate it though. Thank you, and thanks to the well wishes we've received online. So we do appreciate it. And let's get into some of these couple of questions. These sort of who would we want to see on what team? What team would we rather join? And this is again stuff that I was able to find since it is a little bit of a lighter news week. And one of the things that showed up on our Discord was this game shop called Level 1. They have these Vegeta statues that we used to carry at the comic shop, and they labeled it with the pricing and the label, quote, from the hit game Fortnite, end quote. So if you're unfamiliar, characters like Thanos, Batman, Goku, Vegeta, a bunch of characters from different franchises. Fortnite got the licensing, Fortnite being one of the biggest video games currently out. And these characters show up in the game, and you can create a custom character that can do a Kamehameha or throw batarangs around and all that stuff. So the fact that they put from the hit game Fortnite and not from Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, that kind of got me wondering, since there's so many kids playing Fortnite, it's one of the most played titles again. Are characters like Batman, Thanos, Vegeta, maybe someone less popular like Vegeta and Goku, will they be more known for Fortnite rather than the shows or animes that they're from?
It's got to be at that point, because I know that movie just did super well, but I'm starting to think, as a kid saying, Mom, let's go. And if they were saying that, was it, Mom, let's go? It's the guy from Fortnite. They made a whole movie about him.
That's true.
Shit, I don't know, man. Because, when I do think of DBZ, I really do think of it as like 90s kids and kind of stuff like that. With even the newer stuff kind of being almost remakes of some of the stuff that we saw earlier. I don't know. That's fucked up, though.
I didn't see any kids in my theater when I went to go see the Dragon Ball Super movie. It was all dude bros my age and a little bit younger. So I think there's kids probably... Batman and Thanos, okay, they're probably popular enough to where even kids know, like, okay, no, those are not from Fortnite. But characters like Dragon Ball, I think they think they're original to Fortnite, and I think that's kind of funny. I think that's going to be hilarious in 10 or 20 years when they're like, oh, that guy from Fortnite? It's like, no, not the guy from Fortnite.
Yeah.
This one came up as from one of my coworkers, Sam, and it's one that I've answered before in the past, but it's always good to revisit. And I want to ask you, Nick, what comic book creative team would you want working on which characters?
I like Scott Snyder a lot.
Yes.
And then I like, it seems a little obvious and a little on the nose in terms of like they're a really hot creative team, but like him and Capullo have always made really interesting things that I already thought I knew a lot about. I.e. when, adding the spoke to the wheel of like the Court Owls, I was like, that's kind of cool, because everybody thought, who's more powerful than Batman? There is nobody, but think of something older and wiser, blah, blah. So him with another franchise that I like, if they went over to like Boom or something and did like a cool Power Ranger thing, and just imagine, again, I don't want to say the word gritty, but just like a A different kind of version of them might be cool, and then especially to Capullo, I'd like to see him. I could watch him draw anything.
That's a good answer, man. And Capullo has said in the past, because they asked him when he was exclusive to DC, if you could work on any Marvel character, who would it be? And he's named Ghost Rider in the past, the Hulk. And I'm like, man, I want to see a Hulk or a Ghost Rider by Greg Capullo someday. That would just be amazing.
Definitely a Ghost Rider. You know, he's just doing like him in chains and craziness like that. Epic ass designs where he could take the character's costume and push it. Like he would do really, really good with Ghost Rider. Not that he wouldn't do well with Hulk too, but like, you know, he's somebody, A, he can use himself as reference for the Hulk's design because he's absolutely jacked. But B, like you can only take that so far before that gets like crazy, like stupid, because it's still anatomy at the end of the day. You know, his traps can't be that big if he wants to turn his head and blah, blah, blah. So I would prefer Ghost Rider on that. I just think he's really a really talented artist.
I'm going to cheat a little bit on mine because they've both since passed, sadly, over the last couple years. But not many villains could carry their own title, and I'm not saying that this would sell, but it's something that it's my wish list. And no surprise here, but a Ra's al Ghul ongoing written by the late Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, like bringing them back to just do a Ra's al Ghul story, that would be right up my alley. I would read that till the end, until they eventually stopped or it got canceled. That's one of my answers, and I know you've got Neil Adams artwork on your arm, so just to see Ra's al Ghul constantly drawn by Neil, that would be incredible.
Yeah, if I'm able to pick even then past artists, I think Marv Wolfman producing book of something creepy and eerie from Then What? I mean, he was everywhere. Dude, what would you even think like if we got the original Schuster sequel to be like write a Superman story? Like
Yes.
you have all this information, just what do you have to say about it? That'd be fucking weird.
Yeah, how different they would do it, or Bill Finger even, like let's see his current take on Batman if he was still around. And Marv Wolfman I don't think he's retired yet, by the way. I don't know if he's retired from comics, but I think he's just...
you know who I'm thinking of? I'm so sorry. Len Wein has passed. That's
okay.
Because I was sitting here thinking Swamp Thing, and then I heard Wolfman. I was like, no, that's not fucking right. And I thank you for catching me. I was thinking Len Wein. I don't know why I said what I said.
It just reminded me a little bit of when, I think it was Kevin Smith said, there was someone on the animated series, and who was it? Alan Burnett. And he was like, oh, the late Alan Burnett. And then like next time he had Paul Dini on, even this is early Fat Man on Batman, Paul's like, Alan Burnett's still alive. And Kevin's like, oh my God, I just killed him. Late Alan Burnett. So they always referred to him as the late Alan Burnett since then. So we'll do the same with Marv Wolfman, the late Marv Wolfman. And somewhere out there, he's still alive going, what the fuck, guys?
I'm sure he'll be super fucking appreciative. Yeah. And they're like, no, I'm still here. Damn it. You know, Paul Dini's a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh, is he really? Did I miss him in that movie?
Yeah, if you look when they're going to shoot the Blunt Man and Chronic, he's the clapper guy. I don't know if that person on the film set actually has a real name, but you know, the Blunt Man and Chronic, scene 5, take 1.
Oh shit.
That's Paul Dini. Isn't that weird?
I got to look up that scene now. Next question here. Which superhero team would you rather join? We got the Avengers, Justice League, X-Men, Fantastic Four, or the Guardians of the Galaxy, and why?
Just as fanboy wise as we were talking about, I'd have to say the Justice League. So let me start backwards of why not on the other ones. The Avengers and the Fantastic Four are like in New York, and that's fine, but I'm not huge on the city. I don't really love the city. Mm-hmm. It's kind of dirty. It's a little noisy. X-Men, on the opposite side of that, a little secluded New York. Now I'm in upstate, not really a huge fan of that. Guardians of the Galaxy, too much space. I don't want to travel around. Justice League, right amount of space, dude. You're just on the Watchtower.
Yes.
You get to float around. You don't have to, if you don't want to go back down to Earth, you don't have to. If you want to, Jean will shock you down there in a second, or zap you, whatever word you want. You get to hang out with everybody. I'm going Justice League animated. So like there's the commissary up there. They seem to have somebody making some delicious food. Great view. Hanging out with everybody. Yeah, I'm going to have to go Justice League.
Dude, that's the exact reason why I want to stay on the Watchtower, and I would choose the Justice League, because it doesn't mean you have to go out on these missions all the time with the team. I would work on the Watchtower. I would love doing that. It's like working on the Death Star or something, where I just let me do something on the Watchtower. I get to see these superheroes all the time. Sure, we get attacked every now and again, but we have the world's greatest superheroes defending them, or at least saving us. And to work in the cafeteria just to see, there's probably a gym there, places to train. We know that they train up there. We've seen that on Young Justice. Yeah, man, that's just because of the Watchtower, even leaving out the fact that you can work alongside Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Just being on the Watchtower, man, worth it. Justice League, 100% too.
Do you remember? I think the Suicide Squad had to get onto the Watchtower, so they did that by duping a bunch of workers. And I'll never forget the scene because, like, it broke my motherfucking brain as a kid. These people all show up to a cornfield, and in the middle of the cornfield, they get zapped up, and they're just all wearing uniforms and stuff. And of course, I think it's definitely Marco. You know, Deadshot sneaks his way in there. I think Boomerang's with.
Yeah, they called them Task Force X because I'm sure they couldn't
You're right.
they couldn't use Suicide
You're right.
Squad
They
on that
couldn't
one.
yep, 100%. They couldn't actually call them the Suicide Europe. But anyway, like it was these people just going to work and they're like, "Hey, so how's Dana doing?" And they're like, "Yep." And they get zapped up and all right, well, see you later and shit. And I was like, "Oh my God." And then you just broke my brain a second time where you're like, it's like working on the Death Star. Hey, shit. It is like, well, so not only is that awesome, and then you're right, it's fucking Batman. He's taking a shit in the stall next to me. What's up, dude? Nah, dude, Batman definitely has his own bathroom there,
Yeah.
right? They probably all do. Do you think they all have their own suites or their own corridors or what is that?
Yeah,
Quarters?
quarters. I guess it'd be like Harry Potter, where they have except their house would be their own room, right? Their dorms or whatever. Yeah, there's no way that the workers have their own, I'm sure, kind of like on a cruise ship, I guess. That's the closest thing I can think of. On a cruise ship, I know the workers share like 5 people in a room, and then the captain and the entertainment, they have their own rooms. So I'm assuming that's what that's like.
Yeah, there's probably some bunk bed situation going on. Maybe like doctors too, like when they're on and off shifts like that, they have little rooms with bunk beds in them or some shit like that. Nurses, right? Maybe. I don't know. It's not like they're permanent home, but there's got to be a place to like. I definitely know there's a shower too, because I always think it's so weird of Oliver coming out and he's like showered off after the first big mission. It's the first time he sees Black Canary. She's lacing up and shit. So they have everything we need up there, Daniel. It's just we just got to get up there.
That's it. Yeah, we can live up there. It's perfect. Good answer, man. Good answer. Exact same reasons. Next one here. Who would you rather fight? And I'm not saying neither of us are going to win this fight, but let's say, well, I'd rather take that person if anyone. Thanos, Darkseid, Ares, or Ultron?
Oh man, so I did think about this one too. I guess stubbornly, I'd have to say Ultron. I feel like an EMP would be the best way to knock him out. You know,
Yeah.
I could go back to the Stone Age. However, I feel like he'd be smart enough to see past that and like have a generator or something. He'd probably keep me alive though. I don't know, dude. I feel like no matter what, it would be a short fight and it would be over quick. So I don't. Maybe Darkseid. Maybe Ares too. Like I got killed by the God of War himself. Like that's pretty fucking metal.
It took the God of War to take me down.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it didn't take him long, but it took him to do it. So that's kind of cool. Thanos, I don't know, man. I don't know. That just seems weak sauce. I don't want him. Darkseid again. That's fucking metal. That's hardcore. Yeah, let's go him. Who would I want to fight? I think I would be honorably lose a fight to Darkseid.
That's a good answer. Yeah, I'm in between Darkseid and Ares as well. The downside to Darkseid that I was thinking about is if he doesn't kill me, I may end up on Apocalypse as a slave. He does have that. We saw that in the story of New Genesis. And they suffer, man. We saw that with Mr. Miracle too. They suffer. So that could be a prolonged death, unfortunately. And I'm not Mr. Miracle. I'm not going to be doing any escaping. I'll probably die on Apocalypse and it'd be a slow death. But if he does Omega Beam me and I don't die from it, I end up time traveling like Batman did in that Grant Morrison, that weird Return of Batman or whatever, the Resurrection of the Bat. And that might be I could take that chance, show up in the past somewhere with the knowledge of the future. Maybe I'd go with Darkseid.
Nice.
I
Really
thought too much
quick.
about this.
Yeah. that sparked a memory, dude. That just fucked me up. Do you remember the episode of Superman the animated series where Superman finally beats him up and he takes his, like, I'm not gonna say his corpse, but like it's his limp, beat body, and he throws it down in front of what you just described. They are his slaves.
Yes.
He's like, I fucking did it, guys, and they're like, oh my god, dark side, and they help him up, and Superman's just sitting there, fucking befuddled, like, wait, no, and they're just like helping him, and he says something snotty, and now I can't remember, but it's just kind of like, you thought you won, but like they fucking loved me. Like it was fucked up. And I just remember being a kid like, whoa, shit's heavy.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I saw that episode a couple years back when I went through and revisited all of Superman the animated series when they translated him over to Blu-ray and HD. He alluded to the amount of power that he had over these people. That was his some quote like that. It wasn't necessarily fear. It wasn't necessarily that they respected him, but he was just talking about, this is how much power I have on my planet. And it was a surprising moment. You're right. Even as a viewer, it's like, God damn, you expected the cliche thing of let your people have you type of thing, right? Kind of like in Lion King with the hyenas ate Scar. But no, the complete opposite effect. It was really mind blowing. Those fucking writers, man, they're brilliant. And I don't know if that happened in the comics first, but I saw it first in that cartoon.
Same, man. You know, and I it sounds even over just the course of this one episode, but it's been the course of my entire life of me putting that material on a pedestal. And I don't know if it just happens to be some of the most brilliant writing or if it's some nostalgia, but that's what I almost put everything to, of like those types of feelings, those types of memories that have stuck with me. Like it's got to hit a chord, and they were some of the best.
That's awesome, man. I'm going to leave the last question for after the end jingle, but this is why it's always good to have you on, because I know you watch the same stuff I did, like Justice League the animated series, Superman the animated series, and that's why we agreed on so many of these answers. Always fun to have you on, Nick, and please let them know about Buds Bros and Superheroes and also where they can find you if they want to continue the conversation.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I'll just be 100% honest with that right now. Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, I'm not going to say it's on a hiatus, dude. The work is getting to me. You heard here in this very episode of how much it is right now. And like the time that I have to come home is just, I need it to also, I'm having trouble juggling both. I try to post stuff when I can on the internet if you're interested in seeing Instagram stuff, but new episodes will be when they are. I'm not going to say it's dead. It's just, it's going to slowly come out, but I appreciate you. Yeah, it's a show, Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. It's all about smoking culture in the Bud section, Bro section. It's exactly what we did here. I love this or that kind of stuff. And then Superheroes is even more of what we did here in terms of just kind of usually picking one subject and talking about it for a while, but even that's kind of morphing away. I'm not sure of the future of the show, but whatever it is, you've been there since the beginning and you'll be there till the very end because you're very, very awesome. You've been super helpful, and thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me on here too all the time too, man. It's not only it's one of the highlights of my absolute month. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Nick. And as you mentioned, I know your time is very limited with work and everything. So for you to spare an hour and a half for the Brocat on the other side is really appreciated. So thank you so much for being a part of this rotation. And I do appreciate it. It's because of members like you and our other rotation that I'm able to do this show, episode 528 now, hit 10 years even. If last year when Palpa Kelly wasn't able to do it, like I said last week, if I didn't have you guys, there would be no 10-year celebration or anniversary even. So it's a huge thank you as well for helping me get here. And to you on the other side, if you want to be heard on the podcast, please head on over to speakpipe.com/thereasonsimebroke. You can use it from your phone, right from your phone. Head on over to the website and you can record a phone call. You can leave us a voicemail. In case you're driving, there is a link in the description of today's episode. Just swipe on over when you come back to your favorite podcatcher and you will find a link to speakpipe.com/thereasonsimebroke. 90 seconds or less and you can submit your question or comment. But thank you so much for joining us again this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Nick, and Brocat Core. All will be well. For the final question, Nick, which weapon would you rather wield? We got Mjolnir, Captain America's shield, a Green Lantern power ring, or the lasso of truth, and why?
Out of pure convenience and laziness, I'm going to go Mjolnir.
Mjolnir, really?
Yeah, it always comes to you. You just got to stick your hand out. Now, I am worried about property damage with that. I have thought that through, so I'll have to figure that out. But and now so like again, I kind of took this the same way I did this what superhero team. So let's go against the negatives of them all. Cap shield, as much as it's great in the comics and in the MCU, it's not going to bounce that way for anybody else, guys. That's not the way physics even starts to begin. It's just that's not going to happen. So you're going to be picking that shit up off the ground all the time. Now, in terms of just the shield, that's great. You know, it is indestructible. That would be cool. But without an offense to it, I don't really see what I can do. The power ring, again, super great weapon. Me, I can't remember to charge my phone. So I could see myself flying through space or something. It's like, it's dead. Sorry. And then I'm in space. I'm dead. And finally, lasso of truth. I don't know if I could lasso and I'd forget it. It's not there. So again, it's a silly answer, but I think of both tactical advantages plus my laziness. Mjolnir has got to be the answer.
That's a good answer. That's making me rethink my answer of the power ring, because you don't have to recharge Mjolnir. And like you said, it will show up. And I guess I don't know if a Green Lantern ring, I guess it depends on the writer or the animator. I don't know if you can summon it, because if someone takes it away, there goes your power. Batman did it in Justice League in the New 52 when he took Hal's ring. And if you can keep that away from a Green Lantern, if I lose my ring, that's it, right? Then maybe there's ways to locate it.
I see, yes, because that was the same thing I was going to recall. Yes, even though Batman was able to sneak it off, he didn't have to go and wrestle it out of his hand. He literally just put his hand down. That shit flew back in the same way it traveled to him. I'm certain in like how it found him. Now, whether or not, you know, Batman held its grip, if it would have broke his fucking fingers out or some shit, the way Mjolnir would have, I don't know. And besides, that's another great point too. Mjolnir, I'm the only one who could pick it up, presumably.
That would annoy some people, right? If you could troll people like, Nick, we really need this file, and you put Mjolnir right on top of it. Can you just move it? Not right now.
Not right now.
You're the only one who can move it, Nick, please.
No, when I'm good and ready, I think I'll move that shit, guy. Sorry.